Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Beer Inside interviews. Today we are in the Plateau area of downtown Montreal with Dominic and Rachel from Reservoir.
Hello.
Thank you for having us today. I really appreciate
dropping
this.
by.
Yeah. So, what's the beer story? What brought you to Reservoir?
Well, actually, I'm from the restaurant industry more, but back in 2006, I was working here as the brunch manager, and that's a bit how I got introduced to beer because they were brewing already here, and later on I started a few restaurants, and then eventually came back here and got into a partnership with the former brewer and founder of the place, Michel, and then I really got like more into depth about with beer, and there you go. That's my own personal story about beer. Yeah.
Okay. And Rachel, what brought you to brewing beer here at Reservoir?
Yeah, I've been working in the beer industry since like 3 years, and I'm working at the Reservoir since like maybe less than a year. But before I used to, work in like beer factory and everything, and I want to work on a more human scale, and see people drink the beer, drink my beer and everything, and have like a real connection with like the neighborhood and the people. So that's why like I wanted to come and work here. Yeah.
Okay. Now you graciously brought us some beers out.
Yeah.
What's the first beer that I'm going to be trying today?
You're gonna try the 10-degree lager. It's a beer like it's kind of a classic, a summer classic of the Reservoir, and it's a pilsner. I've been lagering in like ourselves for like a long time. Like
Yeah.
like,
Absolutely. It was meant to be like a very quaffable beer, an easy drinking beer. We're fans of dry Pilsner, I guess German style, more Pilsner, and try to get rid of all the sugar that can be found in a Pilsner. So there's an introduction of enzymes in there that help us doing it. And we decided not to filter the beer, to keep it like somehow with all the flavors it's got to give. There's a bit of a later hopping in it, and so you got something very malty, dry, but somehow with a nice, pleasant, I would say, hop flavor and aromatics. Yeah, exactly.
Smells like a pilsner.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of our classic beer, but we always like to like change the hops and everything to see like all the difference, and to make people discover like always like the same grain bill, the same beer, but with different hops.
It's dry, it's clean, it's very drinkable. There's a little bit of bitterness on the back end, but it's a very good beer. Thank you. So what are some of the roadblocks or difficulties you've come into when you came in as a full partner or when you came in as full ownership?
I would say it's a space struggle. That's what it is. There's no we don't have a basement here, so like what you see when you walk in Reservoir, what you see is what we have. There's not more than that. You can also see the brewery in the back, the cold room downstairs, and so like we got to deal with not having any space to have backups, and so it's as we work, we need to make room for what's coming and finish something before we can brew something else. So that's why sometimes we were talking earlier about the stout not being all the time on the menu. That's because like sometimes we come across that difficulty of like have to brew the beer like exactly when we can and not exactly when we would need it. So that's a bit of a challenge for us. Yeah.
And Rachel, what are some of the difficulties with brewing on a commercial scale?
I would say like Dominic, it's all about the space, like when you like the possibilities of things that you can do like are not restricted, but you have to work it out, and it's kind of a restriction, it's not, it could be difficult in a way, but another way it's kind of it's like a puzzle, I have to work it out and find, to make the best out of it. And it's always like, it's a difficulty, but I love it that way, like it's not perfect, but we'll try.
That's great.
And I think we're doing pretty good.
I mean, just coming across your voices, you're very enthusiastic and happy with what you do, which is fantastic to hear. So I had asked earlier before the show, but where did the brewery name come from?
Well, the brewery's name is a bit of enigmatic, I would say, because we're only partners here since 3 years now, since November 2016, but the place has been open since 2002, and so the name was found at that stage. Reservoir, I guess, like I know like there's like this in the Myland, there's this big reservoir thing there. It might come from there, like Van Horn and Saint Laurent. It's a landmark, so I don't know. Like maybe it was because of that. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, Reservoir speaks a lot. I think it's like a bright tank or something like that.
Very symbolic.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. All right, let's try beer number 2. Which one's this?
This is the Session IPA, and maybe Rachel can talk about the hopping process in there.
So this Session is very light, but also got a nice malty like presence at the end and everything. And the hops like they are at the rendezvous. Like they're gonna be there for you and everything.
Okay.
So we kind of get a mix of like classic, like a little bit of Citra and Mosaic, but we try out a new hop that I didn't like use a lot. It's called Kazbek. It's an hybrid like from Saz and some Czech hops.
Okay, excellent.
It's a hop that's more like on the I would say lemony type of flavor to it.
Now that you mention it,
yeah.
But still really strong on the herbal.
Yeah,
Saz,
also,
but
exactly.
Yeah, I'm getting herbal and lemony. Yeah, it's very nice.
It's a
bitterness
medium.
is very faint, which is nice. Another super drinkable beer. Like if I were here during the summer, sitting on the small little terrace you have here, I could totally drink a bunch of these. So.
Yeah, that's my go-to beer. I mean, if you want something crisp, refreshing, not too involving on the alcohol level, and full of a nice presentation of hops, I would believe. It's kind of subtle. I find the balance in this beer very very nice. And there you go.
Yeah, it's very very crushable. Well, I like to say crushable.
Yeah,
you should drink a bunch. Like if you're out with friends, you're playing a local sport in the city, you could just drink a bunch during, after.
Exactly.
And still be okay. So.
I would love to have that canned if it was possible.
Really simple
nice.
beer to enjoy, but it's keep, with complexity and everything. But
yeah, no, it's very flavorful and very, very drinkable, which is great. That's what I'm looking for in beer now is flavor.
Yeah.
I want something that I can enjoy. Well, sometimes I want a beer that I can enjoy cold, and then the warmer it gets, presents more flavor, and then sometimes I just want to sit down and drink a bunch of session beers and just hang out with my friends. You keep the names very simple: Sour IPA, Weizen. Did you just want to keep with that simplicity from the original owner to now, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that has always been that way, and in a way, but also we're a neighborhood pub, like we're a
brew pub.
Yeah, exactly, a brew pub. Thank you very much. And so it's a bit like we're a local business, and we've built up like a clientele since then, and it's a bit like you need to kind of brew beers and present them in a way that people understand. It's not necessarily just beer experts that come here or beer geeks or whatnot. Like we have like a very varied clientele, and so that's why we keep the names kind of closer, with a name that's closer to like I would say like a classic styles, I would say, or the classic name. So it's easier to explain for everyone, and so that's a bit. Yeah.
And the label itself, like you have presenting, where did that come from?
Well, that's the Reservoir. When we came back, we got like the label, the logo revisited by a graphic design agency, and we really loved how they made it a little more simple to what it was originally, and also to kind of kind of signify that like from there on we were involved in the project. So there you go.
And when did you start bottling? Is this kind of new?
Reservoir has been bottling since, I would say, maybe 10 years or something like that.
Okay.
Maybe more, I'm not sure. But when we came here, we brought in also, together with Michel, a barrel aging program. So we got like 7 oak barrels in-house. And so those beers are meant to be bottled because they're more like, I would say, like, there's more involved in it, the time and some ingredients and the aging. So we want to have like something that also like you can bring back home. It's easy to grab a bottle to go. Unfortunately, because of the nature of our permit, we cannot sell for retail. But then, I mean, if you want to bring a beer home, if you have a dinner or something like that, that's like something that you can do here. along with the growlers. But so there you go. So yeah. We've been bottling almost since we're here, actually, at that level.
Okay, and the growlers, it's very rare I see growler like this. Most of them are your 32 or 64 like monsters. What made you guys decide to flip top? And
again, like space, it's just space. They stack very well. They're easier to
use.
Cleaning is simpler, I assume too.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So we only use these growlers because it's easier to manage, and so we clean them ourselves. If you bring it back, we'll provide you with a clean, fresh one, and
Okay, and the labeling on these bottles, who came up with that? What was the originality for all those?
Yeah, I mean, I'm involved in the graphic design, so whenever we bottle a new beer, I work on the labels. So since I'm also kind of very close to the brewery, even though I'm not a brewer, so I know what's in it, and I was involved in every stage of the process, and I love doing graphic design for things that we make, and so there you go. So these are
awesome. So Rachel, what was the first beer you ever brewed?
Oh my God, ever brewed?
First beer you ever brewed?
Oh my God, honestly, the first thing that I brewed wasn't beer.
Okay.
Right, so it was mead.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I think it was 6 years ago. I made a mead with buckwheat,
okay,
a little bit of spice, like cinnamon, cardamom, I know, and ginger.
Okay.
It worked out pretty well, and I think there's one bottle that I keep for like a good occasion, but here, the first beer that I brewed was a dark lager.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it, and I think like people enjoyed it too. Like it was in summer, everyone would like kind of crispy and fresh beer, and I said like, why not, like kind of shake the cage a little bit, It's like, you want a fresh beer, you'll have a fresh beer, but it will be black, and you will enjoy it. So it was very nice to see like how the people were like kind of surprised and everything, and they was like, oh shit, it's actually fresh, and then wow.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised whenever I grab like a white stout. I'm like, this makes no sense to me, but it's coffee and blonde at the same time. It's so confusing.
What is this madness?
It's I mean, with brewing, it's great because all your crazy brain children could just be like, I'm going to try and brew this. I'm going to try and brew that. I'm going to try and brew this.
Yeah.
Is there anything you're thinking of brewing that's not quite on the map right now?
My God.
Oh, that's not on the map.
Yeah.
That's a hard one. I mean, it's hard to say. Personally, I feel like everything was pretty much done. Like it's hard to come up with something that hasn't been done. But I mean, like for me, it would be more in the barrel aging type of beers. We there's things that we want to maybe try out, and but maybe use like more like winemaking techniques to come up with a beer, and blend methods like that. But
mixed technique. And,
exactly. But it's a really tricky one.
It's funny because you're mentioning that, and I was in Vermont during the fall, and Magic Hat actually had two of the same beer, but one aged in red wine and one aged in white wine.
Yeah,
and just both presented completely different flavors, and you're like, this is a genius idea. So the fact that you're talking about that is great to hear.
Sweet, yeah.
So what's the third beer you brought us?
Yeah. This is becoming a classic here, I would believe. This is our rhubarb beer. Mm-hmm. We used to make a very light version of this one for summer, and then Rachel came up with the idea of using a Saison type of yeast to make that rhubarb beer. And we just boosted a little bit the grain in it, so we had a little higher alcohol volume. And so there you go. So it's like fresh rhubarb that's introduced during fermentation.
Okay.
Then maybe like a week of fermentation or so on rhubarb. And so you have the rhubarb is really upfront.
Yeah.
And somehow there's like a kick of hops just in the back. And so it's not kind of a jammy rhubarb. It's more like the freshness of the rhubarb. It was a way to also use acidity. We'd like to make a sour beer without kettle souring it or anything like that, to keep it like acidic, but with just a fruit. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, the rhubarb is like right on the front of my tongue as soon as I taste it. And then I get a little bit of bitterness, but it's more of a mellowing to the back. It's very, very clean. I've had this a couple of times. I did a small local beer venture with a friend.
Yeah.
Where we actually started here and then worked our way, I believe, up to Ma Brasserie.
Yep.
And we started here, and you guys were serving brunch, and me and my friend were drinking at noon. Like, are we alcoholics? I don't know what's going on here. So,
Alcophiles.
Yeah.
have you done any collaborations with anybody?
We've done a collaboration with Helm. Back then, I know they had a collaboration with Tico at Benelux. That's a long time ago, though. Like what I call, like, it depends what you mean by a collaboration. We've had collaboration with for me, using someone else's product to make your own beer. For me, that's a collaboration.
Yeah.
So in that sense, we've made a collaboration with this super nice honey maker in Fermeneuve called Anicet des Rochers.
Okay.
He's got like unpasteurized honey, and he's a honey genius. He's a bee genius, and together with his neighbor, he's called Jérôme Bonnet. They have Des Rochers Hydromel.
Okay.
So we've used his mead lees at one point to make a beer, and that was really interesting as well. We've done a collaboration also with a winemaker here in Eastern Townships.
Okay.
Called Pinard et Fille.
Okay.
So we used his grapes to make a beer that was called the Frontenac. We did two versions of this beer, so 2 years in a row. And am I missing something?
Yeah, or maybe like Cantuc.
Yeah, Project Cantuc, yeah.
A great beer. And,
Okay.
With Cantuc, that's I think that's some of your friends.
Yeah. Dominic Labelle, Benjamin Moroy, and Theo. So they have a garden in Magog.
Okay.
And they grow a bunch of vegetables and herbs and whatnot, flowers and stuff. So they provide us with different types of herbs and plants.
Roots.
So and we made a Groot with that.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was nice.
Is there anybody you'd like to collaborate with locally? One or two, even more if you have any ideas.
Wow. I mean, a lot of people, I would say, but on the top of my head like that, who would I collaborate with?
Well, it could be nice to work with kind of a malterie.
Okay.
Yeah.
To have some local grain and everything, that would be nice.
Yeah. But you mean in terms of brewers?
Like other
really?
brewers,
other brewers,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
I know there's so many. It's just
exactly.
It's kind of like who was kind of around the area that you're like, let's go brew a beer together.
Yeah, exactly. Rachel.
Well,
she's like,
Yeah,
Rachel
yeah,
knows
yeah.
more about brewers than I
Yeah.
do. So, I mean, it would be probably more about...
for instance, I know Simon Livingstone at Espace Public.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be lovely to
Okay.
brew a beer with him. You know, like I know him since like two years and everything. And every time I see him, it's a pleasure.
Okay.
But we never get along to brew. So
Oh.
I guess,
Yeah.
that would be lovely, yeah.
Anybody else in Canada you could think of that you'd like to brew with?
My God, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Maybe like, I don't know, like in Colombie-Britannique,
Okay.
in the BC, I would love to. I don't.
Yeah, I think Red Racer's really popular out there.
Yeah.
So
I like Burdock in Toronto also.
okay, Brewdog.
Yeah, like Burdock.
Oh, Burdock. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Not Brewdock.
Okay. I'm like Brewdog's in Columbus.
yeah, exactly.
And I don't know. I think it's in Toronto. There's a sake brewery
Okay.
that's down there. I know they're not making beer, but
Yeah.
I would be like on top to make kind of a collaboration with them. I don't know, with
I was,
rice or yeast. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So I was in the in Cambridge, Toronto, Guelph area to visit family, and I went to this place called Black Lab Brewing, and it's just dogs everywhere and beer. I'm like, this is heaven. So yeah, it's great. It was raining though, so like smelly bad dogs, but it was a great weekend. So speaking of my Toronto trip, what's a beer vacation you've been on?
About a year and a half ago, I went to Brussels for the first time, and that was like for me it was an epiphany. You know, it was just like, wow, this is amazing, and it was some things I didn't expect. First, the city is beautiful, and I had a chance to. It was the first time I went to Brussels, so I just thought it was great. But then, I mean, also like to see like the lambic brewers, and versus like the new school of brewers that are down there and that want to brew IPAs more than anything else.
Yeah.
And you're wondering like, why do you want to brew that? There's like IPAs all over the place, and they're like well, we've been drinking lambic beers since ever, and now it's time to brew something else, you know? And that was an interesting thing that I found out there, and yeah, it was great. But, and as far as something I'd like to try now, like a beer vacation I would like to try now would be probably in the Czech Republic and see like all like their Pilsner, like go on a just like drink Pilsner all the time, but like high quality and yeah, to see how they also lager their beers, you know, like what it means and what kind of conditions and, you know, like all the and the history and everything like that they do down there. Yeah.
Rachel, yourself?
Yeah. 1 year ago, I've been to Iceland.
Okay.
And there was a beer festival down there, and I think there were like 25, 30 brewers in the country, and a lot of other ones from, you know, like Denmark and all the North countries. So this was really nice because, like, I was traveling and, you know, like, we know each country got their tradition and everything about beer, but it was really nice to see, like, all those breweries from all different countries could get along, you know, and like understand each other, and even all the difference. We're kind of all the same, you know, with the same passion, working the same, you know, ingredient, you know, and it's worldwide what's happening now.
Yes.
But we're all different because of our locality and what we want, but, you know, we can get along and understand. So, you know, like, I feel like connected, and I say like, that's nice. I want to work like in that field and everything. So that was kind of wow.
Would you have collabed with anybody out there? Was there anybody you really enjoyed when you were in Iceland?
Yeah, but I got some few contacts.
Okay, awesome.
But I've made nothing since now, but maybe.
And any future beer vacations, countries you haven't even thought of to go to try beer? Or?
Yeah, not to be like, but the Republic Czech too is kind of my... Like, I want to go there, but also, like, I was wondering, and I made a few research, but, you know, about Tibet and all, you know, like in the mountains, you know, they are brewing, they are making alcohol, you know, and I would like to go down there, you know.
Awesome.
Like, even, like, not about, you know, beer and everything, but they got so much a nice culture down there. So Tibet would be, like, another trip.
Yep.
Awesome. So what's this fourth beer you brought us?
The last one is a sour IPA.
Okay.
I think, we really enjoy that beer because, you know, sour IPA, we take like two big style beer and we try to crush them together. Okay. But I always find it's difficult to balance between the the hoppy side, you know, big IPA, and the sour. And I think we manage something very nice. So you get a really nice balance with the acidity. It is a kettle sour and the hoppy. And you know, like, when I'm drinking this, I'm only thinking, you know, grapefruit, like, and
this is super well balanced. It's not like the sour or the IPA is overpowering in any way. This is a really well balanced beer.
Thanks.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very good beer. I think I had it on my little beer venture. I don't remember. I don't have my Untappd available right now because that's my thing. Is it's almost so I say it. Beers like Pokemon, got to drink them all. So I know there's hundreds of millions of beers out there. I'm never going to have a chance to drink them all. But the fact that you guys exist, that people around you, other microbreweries, brew pubs, like I mentioned, Verdun finally getting a brew pub. I always say drink local. If you're ever like, I went to New Jersey to watch football, and they had Brooklyn Lager, and I'm like, it's almost macro, but it's still local when you think about it. So try and drink local, and that's all what we always suggest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking of drinking local, do you have any brewery friends, beers you enjoy that you would like to, you know, come here first, but go see a friend after?
Oh, of course. I mean, like for me, right now, I'm a big fan of what Hildegard does.
Okay.
And it's every time like someone like tourists will come to Reservoir and they're asking for places to go, that's where I send them, like, for sure. But I mean, they're like, new breweries are popping right now, and it's really interesting that way. But it's that would be my go-to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Rachel, yourself?
Like Sans Taverne. There, it's a craft brewery that work on Pointe Saint-Charles. Every time I go there, you know, it's really nice. You know, like, it's not complicated in a good way. I mean, like, these people that work down there, they want to work for the neighborhood. They're really involved in everything. And, I feel touched every time I go there because of this, and they want to make things happen. They want to give good things to people and everything. So I feel, that warm feeling.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, if you want to drink locally, discover new beer, like, with people, go there.
Yeah. I'd gone there a couple times. It's usually like Four Origins and Saint-Taverne or Saint-Taverne and then Four Origins because it's 20-minute walk, 5-minute car ride, not even. So you have choice, which I appreciate. And the fact that they're a co-op, which is very interesting to me, is that, brewer Bob wants to go try, and then brewer Steve wants to go try something. So I like that idea. And I know they're not the only one in Quebec. There's a bunch in Toronto. I think it's called People's Pint. They're the same thing where it's a bunch of homebrewers got together and like, let's go kind of commercial. Yeah. So that's great. So you had brought in another beer you wanted to try.
Yeah, that would be nice if you have time.
We always have time for good beer.
All right. Well, let's hope you like this one. It's this is a beer that we call the Eaux Troubles. We made a beer that was brewed with bitter oranges from Andalusia.
Okay.
And we barrel aged it, and the bitterness of the orange was very strong. And after we bottled that, so we obviously emptied the barrel. We filled it up with this beer.
Which is a Kveik.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was. It's a beer that was fermented with Kveik yeast, which doesn't show that much, but because of the barrel still tasted like the beer that was there before. So you still have like this aftertaste of the orange that's kind of
like
a little bitter.
Peel,
Yeah. Exactly.
Interesting.
So the orange rinds, I guess, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Rinds? Rine.
Rine.
Yeah. And so there you go. Yeah. It's more like it's more subtle than the beer before, but yeah, exactly.
But when we were tasting that beer, when it was barrel aging, we were like always like amazed about like the importance of like the wood and the history of the barrel. What passed in it before and everything, and like. It make a difference and everything. So.
There's a lot of really good barrel aged beers out there.
Oh yeah,
and we can even smell it from now. Like.
Okay, so as we say on the show, it's toast, but it's like toast. So a
toast.
Oh yeah, smell that orange.
So that was aged for 4 months in that barrel. And it was originally a barrel of red wine, French oak, but used by an American winemaker called the Long Meadow Ranch in California.
Okay.
That's just trivia, but because at one point the barrel doesn't taste like red wine at all.
No.
So that's it.
It's so complex. It's very flavorful, very complex, but... what's the alcohol percentage on this?
I think it's 7.
Okay.
Yeah,
7?
6.
So you're not drinking a bunch of these, then?
No, I mean these beers like they're meant to be shared. You know, you just open a bottle like 2-4 people or something like that, and you just like it's not like something you would.
You wouldn't drink a couple of pints of these.
No, exactly. So there you go.
And like Dominic said before, we put so much love into those barrels and to make that beer, like when we open a bottle, it's, it's a celebration.
So what's next for Le Réservoir?
I would like to develop the barrel aging program a little bit more. Not exactly sure how I'm going to do this right now because of the space struggle we're facing, but nothing's impossible. And that would be like... I would say what's going to be next. I'm focusing on that, and probably also I think we're gonna revisit a lot of what we were doing since the beginning, and so there might be some fresh ideas coming.
Okay. Second location, is that ever an idea?
I don't think so. I think just as drinking local is, I mean, this is a local pub, and it should stay local that way. If we're going to open something else, it's going to be something different.
Okay.
For sure, yeah.
But you wouldn't, let's say, go to LaSalle, which there's no breweries, and be like, we're going to make one there.
Yeah, no.
No? Okay. But even the idea of maybe keeping the kind of the brand, but naming it something else, was that something you would think of? Or?
Sometimes I'm thinking maybe it's a struggle for me right now to think it would be nice to brew beer industrially in the sense of the permit. I mean, not the in the scale of it, but just be able to have our beers provided in an easier way. Like if you want to provide yourself with our beers, that would be nice. But yeah, it's just like also freshness of beer. That's got to be there somehow. So it's something else to manage, I find, you know. So that's why I'm a bit taken off by that. But on the flip side, to be able to have our beers maybe in restaurants and stuff like that,
or even like Peluso or beer
yeah,
store.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, definitely. So yeah, that's it.
Excellent. Yourself, Rachel, what's next for you with Reservoir?
Yeah, but as Dominic saying, like we're really like working like locally. So I think like what's coming next, you know, making some partnership with local people, you know, for ingredients, for even like sharing techniques and collaboration and everything. So we're gonna work like forward on this, you know, and make, you know, and even like all the philosophy like of the Reservoir is, you know, we want to make good thing with what we have, you know, locally, and we're gonna search for the best ingredient to make the best thing, you know, so kind of sort out all the best like that is around us. So
Yeah.
So let the people know where they can find you here, social media, and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're on the Plateau, more specifically in what I would call Little Portugal, and we're on Duluth Street. We're just off Saint Laurent, like almost on Saint Laurent, but not quite. So that's where you can find us physically. And cyberly, you could probably find us on, I think it's brasserie.reservoir, I think so, like on Instagram.
Well, we'll add it on the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't...
as long as you type like Brasserie Reservoir, you're gonna find us.
Yeah, on Facebook and whatnot, you know, like, there you go.
Awesome. As for us, you can find us allbeerinside.com for the audio. You get a link to the video. YouTube channel is All Beer Inside as well. All Beer Inside on all the social media. As for this, as I always say, drink craft, not crap.
Nice.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
It was a
Carp.
pleasure.
Thank you
much.
so
Appreciate
much.
it.
All right.